What's happening, folks? I'm back with another reaction, back with a lucky dip. And this one comes from Adam, and it's a group he suggested a couple weeks ago, and I've been meaning to get to, so apologies for the slight delay, sir. But we're going to listen to a track by a group called Apoptygma Berzerk. I'm not sure if that's how you say the first word, that's how phonetically I would be inclined to pronounce it. Nevertheless, they're a Norwegian group, shout out to Norwegian music. And we're going to listen to a track from their third album, I believe, which is called Welcome to Earth, in which the cover art is sort of like a drawn version of those old crop circles that were much in the news in the 90s. And yeah, ultimately the tune is called Eclipse, which, it's when one entity passes in front of another from the point of view of a subjective observer, which, that's Einstein would talk about it, but there's no, what's the right word? Objective frame of reference, and like everything is from a point of view. So an eclipse, it is relative to a particular perspective, but ultimately it's when one body passes in front of another, and therefore either blocks the light from it or causes other anomalous circumstances to accrue. So I wonder, how any of those metaphors or how any of those concepts might manifest as metaphors or figurative depictions of relations between people. Either way, I don't know the group at all, so I have no basis for any lyrical standing. When I looked up, because I was curious if this was their first album, so again, I looked it up and I think it's their third album. I did notice they're listed as both synth-pop and future pop. Now, future pop isn't a label I've heard before, so I'm curious the essence of that category or subgenre. Either way, let's find out what this is. This is Apoptygma Beserk, although again, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. The track is called Eclipse, and it's from the 2000 album Welcome to Earth. I did not know we were getting psytrance style electronica. This very much would have turned my head. Starting to play techno and trance at parties. Yeah, it sounds like a sort of austere, like, psytrance. With that rolling bass line. Oscillations up and down. Admittedly, it feels like more on hold. Now more like euphoric, like progressive trance. I like this DJ Energy from the late 90s, R.I.P. DJ Energy. Sounds like a track from him. This is cool, man. This is very much in my world. Kick too, it's got some oomph. reminds me a little bit of Dave Gahan in the late 90s. Not right there, but... I do like that line. Like, look up DJ Energy, just can't get enough. That's the Dave, like, side of his sometimes that player is on repeat because I use it for, like, you know, watching videos and so on, so it'll just scroll through whatever the playlist is. Regardless, yeah, a cool tune, and sonically I didn't know that's what we were getting into, and who knows, maybe that's not necessarily reflective of their larger catalog, maybe it's just one of the different flavors they have in their sonic bag, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, it's trance. Like, I'm sure, again, there are, like, justifications for, you know, the labels that people use, but to me, like, I hear that that's trance. Now, again, there were some different flavors of trance along the way, and obviously the vocals that came in, you know, a couple minutes in and then persisted to the end of the track, perhaps that makes it less of, like, a, you know, like, underground, like, rave trance. But even then, there's a lot of, like, trance tracks that have vocals. So yeah, I don't know, maybe that's synth-pop, or, like, dance synth-pop, or, like, synth dance or something. And again, I know sometimes people, you know, they don't like labels being attached to things. I understand that, but I'm an editor, I use words, and ultimately I'm interested in semantics and the way that people characterize this, you know, abstract experience of sounds hitting your ear and your brain and so on. And it's like you have to use words to describe that. So when I hear that, I think psytrance, I think progressive trance, I think, again, like electronica, late 90s, early 2000s. So again, it's funny, I never heard of them, but had I discovered this in 2000, I would have been interested. As I mentioned also, it sounded a little bit, at least in parts, like a Depeche Mode, you know, 12-inch, like, trance remix. Not, like, there were vocal moments where he sounded very different from Dave, and it's a different voice, but ultimately there were some moments where it's like, man, like, you know, if I heard just that snippet, I'd wonder, oh, was that like a Depeche Mode, like, live song that I never heard or something? So, yeah, I did enjoy the flavor of the combination of different elements, both electronic and more, like, you know, pop-oriented. So, yeah, curious how we're, like, indicative of this album or their larger catalog that is. And yeah, I like that idea of catching a glimpse of eternity, which, you know, as mortal beings, it feels like that's all we can ever do. But if the idea is that, like, in the moment of the eclipse, you catch a glimpse of what can be, because the normal, like, garish light is sort of blocked out, and you can see things as they are for that brief moment in time. If that is, like, part of the concept, I found that notion to be profound. So I was enjoying the lyrics as it was going through, even though I'm not quite sure at all what's happening. So again, big shout out to Adam. There's another tune that he highlighted on the same album, so we'll go through that next, and then we'll see what else we can do with Apoptygma Berzerk, maybe. And yeah, let me know what you think. I'll see you next time. Peace.